"You're a fool and a weakling, nephew. Do you think any man would ever have dared speak so to your father?" Dowager Queen Visenya Targaryen to King Aenys, Fire and Blood, the Sons of the Dragon. Even after the exile of Prince Maegor for taking a second wife, the relationship between King Aenys and the Faith was still somewhat strained, and this discontent had begun to trickle down to some of the more pious lords and even small folk. But the character of Aenys meant that he remained oblivious to this growing discontent in his new kingdom. But for now at least, peace had returned. His troublesome brother was across the narrow sea, and a great new castle had begun to arise the top of Aegon's high hill, built in pale red stone. The king's new seat would be larger and more lavish than Dragonstone, with a massive wall and barbican and towers, capable of withstanding any enemy. The Red Keep, the people of King's Landing named it. Its building had become Aenys' obsession. "My descendants shall rule from here for 1,000 years, he declared. Perhaps thinking of those descendants, in 41 AC, Aenys Targaryen made a disastrous blunder, one that would in the end define his reign. He announced his intention to give the hand of his daughter, Rhaena, in marriage to her brother, Aegon, the heir to the Iron Throne. This showed how oblivious Aenys was to the true issue between the relationship of House Targaryen and the Faith. By this time, Princess Rhaena was 18, Prince Aegon 15. By most reports and court records, they had been close since childhood, playmates when young. Though Aegon had never claimed a dragon of his own, he had ascended into the skies more than once with Rhaena on Dreamfire. Lean and handsome and growing taller every year, Aegon was said by many to be the very image of his grandsire, the Conqueror, at the same age. However, it should be noted that by this time there were very few who had seen the Conqueror that young. 3 years of service as a squire, like most highborn boys of his age, had sharpened his prowess with sword and axe, and he was widely regarded as the best young lance in all of the realm. However, no records of him ever competing in a tourney or even practicing with other squires his own age exist. Thus, measuring how skilled he truly was is unclear. But what we can say is from events to come, Aegon clearly did not lack for courage. As he grew more homely, many a young maiden had cast their eye upon the prince, and Aegon was not indifferent to their charms. "If the prince is not wed," Grand Maester Garwin wrote to the Citadel, "his grace soon may have bastard grandchildren to contend with. You are fearless when facing a girl on a horse, I see. Next time I come, I will be on a dragon. Throw dirt on me then, I pray you. Rhaena Targaryen, to the poor fellows, Fire and Blood, the Sons of the Dragon." It is also true that Princess Rhaena had many suitors as well, but unlike her brother, she gave encouragement to none of them. She preferred to spend her days with her siblings, her dogs and cats, and her new and current favourite, Alayne Royce, the daughter of the Lord of Runestone, a plump and homely girl, but so cherished that Rhaena sometimes took her flying on the back of Dreamfire, privilege very few received. More often though, Rhaena took to the skies by herself. After her 16th name day, the princess declared herself a woman grown, free to fly where I will, and just like that, she did. Dreamfire was recorded as being seen as far away as Harrenhal, Tarth, Runestone and Oldtown, but this freedom also became the source of many sordid rumours. It was whispered, though never outwardly proven, that on one of these flights, Rhaena surrendered her maidenhead to a low-born lover. Some say a hedge knight, others named him a singer or a blacksmith's son, even a village septon. In light of these tales, some have suggested that Aenys might have felt the need to see his daughter married as soon as possible. Some retroactively have suggested it was because of this rumour Aenys felt he could only marry Rhaena to someone within his own house, or risk the unsubstantiated tales gaining more traction. Regardless of the truth of the matter, at 18, Rhaena was clearly of age to marry, 3 years older than her mother and father had been when they were wed. In fact, many highborn girls of her age married much younger, with many betrothed as children, or even before they were already born. So from a certain point of view, it was strange a match had not already been made for her, especially being the eldest child of a king, who would be a prize match for any of the great houses and small across Westeros. Given the tradition and practices of House Targaryen, a match between his two eldest children must have seemed the obvious course to King Aenys. Some sort of affection between Rhaena and Aegon was also well known at court, and neither seemed to raise any objections to the match. There is much to suggest that both had been anticipating just a partnership, since they had first played together in the nurseries of Dragonstone and in the old Aegon fort. But circumstances had changed, and House Targaryen were no longer an independent house in the middle of Blackwater Bay, but the heart of the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros, and all of the issues that come with that. You have a dragon. Use him. Fly to Oldtown and make this starry sept another Harrenhal, or use me, or give me leave, and let me roast this pious fool for you, Dowager Queen Visenya, to King Aenys Targaryen, Fire and Blood, the sons of the dragon. The storm that greeted the king's announcement of the match between Rhaena and Aegon took them all by surprise, though the warning signs had been plain enough for those with the wit to read them after the events leading to Prince Maegor's exile. The truth is, the faith had condoned, or at the very least ignored, the marriage between Aegon the Conqueror and his sisters, but it was not willing to do the same for their grandchildren. Aegon had already married his sisters prior to the conquest, and very few had the power at the time to really resist him, or face the wrath of the Black Dread. Aenys was not Aegon. From the Starry Sept came a blistering condemnation, denouncing the marriage of brother and sister as an obscenity. Any children of such a union would be abominations in the sights of God and men, the High Septon proclaimed, in a declaration that was read by tens of thousands of Septons throughout the Seven Kingdoms, so all from the highborn to the low could know the faith's displeasure. Aenys Targaryen was infamous in his indecision, yet here, faced with the fury of the faith, he oddly stiffened and grew stubborn. He chose this hill to die on and put his foot down. The Dowager Queen Visenya advised him that he had two choices before him. He must abandon the marriage and find new matches for his children, or mount his dragon Quicksilver to fly to Oldtown to burn the Starry Sept around the High Septon's head. Visenya, of course, pushed for the second of these, as to relent to the faith would be seen as a loss and bending the knee to the High Septon. It would be crossing a line House Targaryen could never walk back from. But King Aenys did neither. Instead, he simply persisted. On the day of the wedding, the streets outside the Sept of Remembrance, built atop the Hill of Rhaenys, and named in honour of Aenys' fallen mother, were lined with the warriors' sons, in gleaming silver armour, making note of each of the wedding guests as they passed afoot, a horse, or in their litters. The wider lords, perhaps expecting the faith to do this, had stayed away. Those who did come to bear witness saw more than the wedding. At a feast afterwards, King Aenys compounded his misjudgment by granting the title Prince of Dragonstone to his presumptive heir, Prince Aegon. A hush fell over the hall at those words, for all present knew that title had hitherto belonged to Prince Maegor. At the high table, Queen Visenya rose and stalked from the hall without the king's leave. That night, she mounted Vhagar and returned to Dragonstone, and it is written that when her dragon passed before the moon, that it turned red as blood. King Aenys Targaryen did not seem to comprehend the extent to which he had roused the realm against him. Eager to win back the favour of the small folk, he decreed that the prince and the princess would make a royal progress throughout the realm, no doubt thinking the cheers of the small folk would greet them everywhere they went, like on his own royal progress. Wiser perhaps than her father, Princess Rhaena had asked leave to bring her dragon Dreamfire with them, but Aenys foolishly forbade it. As Prince Aegon had not yet ridden a dragon, the king feared the lords and commons might think his son unmanly if they saw his wife on dragonback and him upon a palfrey. Little did Aenys know how much impact this decision would have in the context of the rest of his reign.